Hello and welcome live from Burbank, California. It is the Unsinkable Podcast, Film versus Film. I am coming to you, your co-host, Quinn Boys, from the deck of the RMS Titanic, and I'm looking down on my co-host, Leonard Smith Jr. Leonard, I can see you down there. How's it going, buddy?
Hey, what's going on, man? I'm just down here. I got a few candles lit, just trying to set the mood. I've been wearing this same shirt for about 2 weeks now, but I'm hoping that
I can smell you from up here.
I'm hoping this is my good luck charm. Apparently, it's good luck. That's what the man who sold it to me said. So we'll see.
I hope you didn't pay him a lot. Okay, so we are, maybe it's not clear actually at all by that intro, but we are today on the podcast, we are matching up love stories. Best love story is the prompt for this week. I've picked my film. Leonard has picked a film. And to help us moderate, eventually decide a winner, we had to go to friend, comedian, improviser, Dickie Copeland. Dickie, thank you so much for being on the show.
Ahoy!
Yes, you got your sea legs under you, I hope.
Yeah, I'm in the fancy cabin, baby.
Yeah, we didn't put you down with steerage with all the Irish. We got you riding first class. Leonard, you can come on board anytime, buddy. You just have to admit that my pick is better.
All I know is I like smaller boats. I don't like big boats. Something about it.
Yeah, never trust it?
Never been a fan of cruises. If the listeners, hopefully you probably know what the movies are, because if you don't, you're like, what the fuck are they? Why are they talking about boats so much?
I think it's pretty clear that I picked Poseidon.
And I chose Aquaman.
I don't think anyone knows what your movie is yet from these prompts, Leonard. Unless
I'll put
we
a
have
lot of people on.
The writer
I'm about to
director.
put a lot of y'all on.
Okay. Let's just go right into it. We've picked best love stories. Actually, before we go right into it, maybe we should talk a little bit about what this prompt means. It's pretty general. We've gone specific and we've gone general before, but best love story is fairly open-ended. I think that'll be apparent from the diversity between our two picks, Leonard. But it's only fair. She will ultimately be making the judgment that I ask you, Dickie. What do you look for? Or when I say best love story, like what comes to mind? What do you want to see? What do you think about? What's your
best love story, like in a movie? In a movie,
yeah. Although, TV love stories work too, although I guess not.
Yeah.
There's also such things as books, Quinn. Books also are.
Books? Oh, right. The thing that movies are based on. I'm sorry. Okay.
Well, I'm going to go straight at it and be like, especially having been a teen girl once, and it's like kissing, chemistry, it's sex, like the hot connection, but also, there's the other side of it. Growing up, you realize there's the heartbreak, there's seem to be, you never watch a story that's just like, they got together, they liked each other, it worked.
No one wants a love story about a happy conflictless marriage or something.
Right.
Speaking of conflict and I feel like the movie I was fighting with choosing and I didn't choose was Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Oh, tons of
it was so hard for me not to choose that one, but
I mean, that's the one that hurts. If you connect to that one, you've been through it, right?
Yeah, right.
And the moments you take away are like when they're fighting and the ketchup across the neck and she's not paying attention to him, like that moment, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the best. There's those things you connect to in it where you watch it and you feel something. Love stories are meant to make you feel.
That's, I think that crystallizes it. And actually, fun fact, Leonard, you did pick Eternal Sunshine for the Spotless Mind, but I had that memory erased. So you don't recall, but I.
And then you paid for it to be erased out of my mind.
I paid for it to be erased. Yep.
Oh, okay.
I also erased some traumatic experiences from your childhood, so I did a little bit of good as well.
That's wild, because I noticed these scars on my knee, and I was like, I don't know where that's from. I don't know where these scars are from.
You have one fewer uncle.
Actually, I did have two uncles, and they're both dead. So,
yikes!
There you go.
All right, let's move into my. Sorry, Leonard.
3 dead uncles.
It's okay. See, there you go.
I
love the balls to erase some memories while you're in there.
You want us to take out any trauma? Oh, sure. I mean, I don't know. Do I still get it on the same price? I really need you to erase the Eternal Sunshine pick because I'm scared of it. But if you want to take out some trauma, I suppose I can do that for my friend.
All right, Quinn, go ahead and tell us your choice.
We all know what my pick is. I spoiled it in the intro. I picked, arguably, I picked one of the greatest love stories ever told. Story with its share of tragedy and romance and drama and a lot of Kathy Bates. And I picked the Titanic, 1997, James Cameron directed, Leonardo DiCaprio, Kate Winslet starred, Titanic. We all know what it's about. It's about a big ship that sinks, but more so, it's about the love that forms between the upper class but miserable English Kate Winslet, who plays Rose, in which I think this is like, if not her first film, this was her kind of coming out movie. I don't know that many people knew of Kate Winslet before this. And she falls for, as did we all, young Jack Dawson, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, fresh off of Growing Pains and more recently other great love stories like A Boy's Life. No, like Romeo plus Juliet. And he plays the young A Boy's Life is not a love story. But he plays Jack Dawson. He was the teen heartthrob of the time. For those listening who are 8 years old, he was the Timothée Chalamet before Timothée Chalamet. And
it was
you talk about, actually, Dickie, can you talk about Leonardo DiCaprio's appeal better than I can? Probably. I don't know.
I was going to say, it pained me to listen to you recite his IMDb page because, like, you know, it's one of those things we all knew so well. It's like, what's eating Gilbert Grape? The Basketball Diaries. Romeo plus minus Juliet. Right? It's really what it should be. And, yeah, of course, he's in Growing Pains and all that stuff, too. So,
Basketball Diaries, he really loved heroin. So I suppose that's
true.
And basketball.
That is true. Yeah.
Man.
And, my cousin was so in love with him, and she called him always Frio Leo because of Titanic.
Frio Leo.
So she'd always like be like, this one goes to Frio Leo. I know.
Yeah, I like that. I think
silly.
People who, you know, are only kind of maybe more, which there are no 8-year-olds who listen to this podcast. Maybe there are 84-year-olds who are listening to it who are on the Titanic once upon a time.
87 years ago or whatever she says.
But he is not just the guy that does that silly dance from Wolf of Wall Street that's been gifted to death. He is Leo DiCaprio. He's the teen heartthrob of the 90s and into the 2000s. And now he's in, you know, he's an adult and he's a little bit paunchier and he's less sexy. But boy, when he was in his prime, you should have seen him. And this movie encases him in amber as like a forever teen star. And Kate Winslet's great too. And no, Kate Winslet is also lovely. They're both so good in this movie. It's a classic love story. I mean, there's really not much more to say. They meet, they are at different classes. They are kind of at different points in their life. Leo he's king of the world. He's happy just to be on a boat going back to America. Kate Winslet is supposed to marry Billy Zane, her awful fiance, who's going to entomb her in wealth and just make her a thing. And he teaches her how to live life. He literally saves her at the beginning of the film when she's considering jumping into the water. And then he sort of saves her by, as the tragedy unfolds, making her hang on, appreciate life. She winds up living very sadly, very famously. Leo does not make it out of the wreck. And she goes on and she lives another 84 years. And she goes to see the Titanic unearthed or discovered and excavated. And it's just it's a story about a love that burned brief, but burned bright. And that had a resonance
for 4 hours.
For 4 hours, and had a resonance on her for the rest of her life. Okay, and it's I think whether or not it's your favorite love story, I think for a lot of reasons, Titanic fits best. I mean, it's biggest. It made a shit ton of money. It is still today hugely relevant and referenced. And I think the love story holds up. I just rewatched it for this. I hadn't seen it in probably at least 15 years.
4 years.
And I hadn't seen it in 84 years. But it's a classic. I don't think I even need to explain that. I can explain why I picked it, but I don't think I need to explain why it fits. I think it pretty obviously fits this prompt. Unlike your pick, Leonard.
Oh, really? Because I think your pick is awful. I don't think this is a best love story at all. This is about a goddamn ship sinking and people trauma bonding, but it's okay.
Did you only watch the second VHS? There's a whole first VHS that you watched. They used to split it in two at the video store.
Yo, did y'all hear about there's this girl who had seen she had only seen the first tape of Sound of Music her entire life, and she thought that was the entire movie.
Oh no.
So she discovered it with some friends. She was like, they were like talking about their favorite movies, and she's like, oh, mine is The Sound of Music. And they're like, wait, but what about the part with the Nazis? She's like, what Nazis? She was like, she thought like it was all happy.
It's just a movie about a nanny like Mary Poppins.
Yeah, exactly. And then she like watched the second half like 30 years later and was like, oh my God, this is what this movie is. That would be what I don't even know how that would just, I don't know. It would be such a
was this person like on the news? She like,
it was like a story. It became a story or something, like, because it was just wild. But my movie is great. My movie is it's just like chef's kiss. It's just a great movie. This movie, Mud, has soul. Unlike this cookie cutter Titanic capitalistic bullshit.
Oh, give me a break. All right, keep going.
Anyways, because you came at me and said it's not, but it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Titanic is like if your like 8th grade boyfriend like bought you something for Valentine's Day or something, and like, I don't know. Anyways, Mud is about these two 14-year-old boys, Ellis and Neckbone. It's really about Ellis, but they live in Arkansas, rural Arkansas. They live on the river, Mississippi River, and they find this abandoned boat in this tree that had gotten up in this tree because of some flood or something. And when they're checking out the boat, they find out that someone's living in the boat. That's when we meet the protagonist, Mud. He's a rugged, rural, sexy gentleman played by Matthew McConaughey. Just a real. He seems like a straight shooter to the kids, but you know, everybody's got a past, everybody's got a life, and he's waiting on this little island, waiting for his girlfriend, Juniper, with the nightingales on her hand. And he's on the run from the law. He's on the run from men who want to hurt him because he killed his Juniper's ex-fiance, abuser, boyfriend, and he killed him. And now he's on the run from his family and from the law. And he could have gotten away, but he's waiting for her. He's just waiting for her. Any word, he's just going to find a way. And he eventually does. We learn about their past, the trials and tribulations, and the things you do and will go through and will do for love and the person you love. And also through this whole process, we learn it's about Ellis, and Ellis is just a lover, and he's just like he just like believes in love. And it's kind of like a love story about, I feel like Ellis is the love story in this movie. It's not really about, I mean, it's about Mud and Juniper, but the true love story in this is Ellis. He is kind to Mud. He's like, Neckbone is the cynical, he doesn't have parents, and like he just sees the world in a different view, but Ellis isn't like that. And you just like see the process of him like getting his first girlfriend, and his parents are also getting divorced. So it's just like a love story on many different levels, and it's just shot so beautifully. And eventually, you know, Mud has to do what he has to do and goes into the public eye, and it's a great story, you know, all around. And I just feel like it has depth and soul, and it makes you feel things when you watch this movie.
Yeah, the big "I love you" comes between him and his dad. They say "I love you" to each other.
Yeah, it's just different. I just feel like this whole movie is about love in so many different ways. So that's why I chose Mud.
Leonard, quick question. When you were talking about a shitty like 8th grade gift, were you talking about a replica of the Heart of the Ocean diamond necklace?
Yeah. I feel like that's something
people had those like for a long time.
Were you ever gifted one of those, Dickie?
No, I was
in
not.
8th grade. I got like candles from Bath and Body Works, or like the Victoria's Secret body spray. That was always that was like my go-to.
Angel,
you smell. Here you go, Leonard. So I am going to come after your pick, Leonard, not because I don't think Mud is a great movie. I had never seen it before, actually. It's only from 2012. I kind of remember when it came out. It's sort of part of the Matthew McConaughey, reconnaissance, however we pronounce that. Yeah. He was on the come up. He had yet to win the reconnaissance. He'd yet to win the Academy Award, but he was sort of like doing interesting, good, smaller work. This is kind of an indie film. He's the star, nobody else. I mean, actually, Sarah Paulson's in it, and there's a couple of folks from like Boardwalk Empire. Michael Shannon wasn't that well known at the time, but like he's the movie star in the movie, and it's really good. I'd never seen it before, and I was flummoxed, to say the least, when you picked this movie. I think, Dickie, when you when we gave you the prompt, when we all talked about this before we recorded, we said, okay, we'll do best love story. And then you joked, oh, so you'll both pick The Notebook, and then, it'll just be at cross purposes. Or basically you're saying whoever picks The Notebook might win, which is going to have one of us feeling very foolish because we didn't pick The Notebook.
I had some people who were like, they thought you were going to pick The Notebook. You haven't seen The Notebook, have you? Or have you?
I have not seen The Notebook. But...
Exactly. So that's what I told people. That's why you couldn't pick it. But
why didn't you pick it?
Because I don't know what it is.
You said it would win.
But I've seen it, and it's a great love story. But when it's that, I can't pick that movie. I stay away. Like, there's another episode that was the obvious pick for next week's episode, and I'm not picking it, even though I saw it in the theaters 3 times. You know what I'm saying? But I just don't want to pick the most obvious, glaring choice. So I couldn't.
But you definitely didn't do that.
But for me, it is. Mud is because I just resonate with this film. I loved it. The first time I saw it, I just was like, damn, the way I feel right now is wow. This is great, So
what are these feelings I'm feeling? I just imagine you in the theater crying. Like, why am I crying right now?
I was crying in the theater for sure. Yeah,
it's very emotional. No, it's a great pick. It was way out of left field. Dickie, were you like, oh, Titanic, of course, or like, oh, Mud, interesting. Like, what were your thoughts when we gave you these movies? I assume you'd seen both of them?
I had, and my thought, honestly, was neither is a love story.
Whoa, interesting.
Titanic is a disaster movie.
Yes, it
is. And Mud is a coming-of-age movie.
Yeah.
So I felt like
yes,
neither of those are ones that, like, I feel like I've thrown on. Well, that's not true. Titanic does. I think that first. But you forget that, like, they hit the iceberg literally at the halfway point.
Yeah, and the second half is just destruction.
The second half is like the best.
Propellers.
The second half is like the best disaster movie of like the 90s, and I don't know that there's been like a more thrilling disaster movie since. I will totally cop to that. It is half romance, half disaster film, and the disaster part is like, I think if we're gonna like be very binary, like go back to like the 90s, like how do you get your boyfriend to see this movie with you? It's like, tell him that it's the towering inferno mixed with Notebook hadn't come out, but love story mixed with whatever. And it's like, there's a little something for both. And I think it's totally true. Obviously throughout the disaster, they are trying, Jack is trying to save Rose is saving Jack, and so they don't forget it, but they definitely, the upper class, lower class tensions fall away, and it becomes a pure sort of survival movie. Absolutely.
Right. That's also really funny because I did make a boyfriend watch Mud. I did make a boyfriend watch Titanic.
Yeah. All right. So you said you didn't feel like either one of these were love stories. What would you have chosen?
The Notebook, clearly.
Well, I mean, God, it's tough because it's like my favorite movie is To Have and Have Not, which is the movie not Ingrid Bergman, Lauren Bacall and Humphrey Bogart fell in love doing, and it's like what Casablanca is kind of a ripoff of, or like Say Anything. Say Anything is the movie I watched a lot as a kid, like over and over again before you realize John Cusack's like a little bit much. But like, and also, which is so funny because the sex scene in Titanic, You're Trembling in the Car, is a complete ripoff of the sex scene in Say Anything, where she's like, you're shaking, and he's like, I'll be okay. It's like James Cameron, man, not exactly a romance novel.
Does John Cusack put his hand down the window of the back of the car?
He does not. That is all Cameron. But or like if it wasn't, we watched The Notebook, but we wouldn't watch the old people parts. We'd skip those.
Too painful, or just like boring?
Both. Just trying to watch Ryan Gosling. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
Or like Notting Hill, or like Atonement, or God, Moonstruck. Well, Princess Bride, maybe.
Oh yeah.
Although that's more of an adventure movie. I guess that's got your same kind of. There's a lot packaged with it.
There's definitely a love story. I think they even reference, right, in where like Kevin Arnold is asking like, "Is this a love story, Grandpa?" when he's like talking to him, and yeah. I can see all those. Those are all.
I feel like every movie has a love story in it, but
yes,
the best love story is the question.
Right. That is the question. Is it the best? Right.
Right.
Interesting. Fascinating.
And so we can go. No, you go, Leonard.
No, you go.
No, you go.
I'll go.
Okay, Dickie, go.
I don't have anything.
I was going to say, are there any scenes? Are there anything? I think Titanic is obviously the movie that's a little bit more.
I mean, it's in the memes today.
It's in the public consciousness today, I would say. I think it's fair to say even Leonard would probably agree more so than Mud.
100%.
Mud is like a movie you discover and you like and you tell your friends about and stuff. Nobody needed to tell their friends about Titanic. It was in the theaters for like a year. It had come out on VHS by the time it was still in theaters. Yeah. It crashed into theaters with all the force of a unsinkable ship hitting an iceberg. But were you guys, how recently had you last seen it, Dickie and Leonard? Leonard doesn't seem to like this movie, so I imagine he may have avoided it, but.
I hadn't seen this movie since probably the late 90s. And
okay.
Yeah.
Dickie?
It's been a long time for me too.
Yeah.
And it wasn't one of those ones I watched incessantly. I think I just kind of missed it or whatever. But
only if they had missed that iceberg.
I guess I just pulled to the left a little bit. Really hit a hard port and was fine. No, I think it's been a minute. And I haven't seen Mud since, maybe like a year.
There's a lot of stuff like rewatching it for me that was like, first of all, it's funny how a movie made in the 90s but set in the 10s, the 1910s, can feel very 90s for whatever reason. Like Leo, like his hair, or like there's just like certain, even like some of the, I was like, I'm feeling, you know what it might be? It might be that the Titanic has imprinted on the 90s. So even when I hear like the wind flute, I'm like remembering being like a boy when this movie came out for whatever reason. But it was like, I remembered the VHS. I remembered that you had to rent like both two bound together plastic VHS things so you could go in your VCR. Like there's something about it. We're watching it today. It's an incredibly long movie. You have to plan your day around it. Leonard, I know that was a problem for you. You rolled your eyes when I picked it because I've given you two very long films in a row. Dickie, last week I made him watch Casino. So
oh shit.
This is just an endurance competition for Leonard at this point.
Honestly, Casino's a good movie. So it was a little long, but I enjoyed it. This I did not enjoy at all. So
you didn't enjoy the romance. You didn't enjoy the disaster parts of it. I kind of don't believe that.
No. Hold on. It is shot well. It is dope. It's an epic movie. Like it is big. It's entertaining. But I was looking at it as from the best love story point of view, and it just feels like it literally has no soul. It just is. It feels empty when you're watching it. And literally, I was just watching the last half, and I was like, I don't want to see people falling into propellers, and I don't want to see fucking.
I love shout out to Propeller Guy. That image stuck with me all these years later. Propeller Guy.
Yeah,
I was waiting for Propeller Guy. Yeah,
it is dope being like,
and then just the body like ragdolling after that.
It is like, okay, I wonder what it would be like when the Titanic was sinking. And okay,
scary.
This is cool, but this is not. I don't love this. I don't want to see dead, floating, frozen bodies in an ocean.
No, I'd much rather watch a retired CIA guy snipe a bunch of people on a dock. You're right. That's what I look for in romance films. I look for two main characters that are two love interests that are never in the same room and share a really quick hey, and then that's all you see of them. Yeah, that's what I think of when I think of best love story.
True. I feel you, but like. All I'm saying is, if that boat didn't sink, Jack and Rose weren't gonna happen. That wasn't gonna be a thing.
I can cop to that. That's not even part of my argument.
Yeah. But this is like Jack and Rose is just like some whirlwind romance, and the reason why it's a great story is because the boat sank and she didn't let him sit on the fucking piece of wood with him. You know what I'm saying?
The wood thing. Yeah. All right. But is Romeo and Juliet a love story?
I almost chose Romeo and Juliet.
Is that a love story?
And then I didn't.
Would Romeo and Juliet still be together
like it's
if
a
they
greater
hadn't
love
killed each
story
other?
than this. I think it's a greater love story than this.
All right, well then I put to you and Dickie, I don't know if you have thoughts on this. Romeo and Juliet are just as foolish and young and irresponsible as Jack and Rose. Romeo and Juliet were not, their families hated each other. They would have killed each other. They were not a smart, sensible match. In fact, if you are arguing, I guess, for the smart, sensible match, then Rose should have stayed with Billy Zane. She should have just lived the life. Like it's not invalid just because it's a weekend or
I'm not
a boat
arguing
trip
that it's a smart, sensible match. Not at all. All I'm saying is I feel like Rose, whoever would have come and like been like, don't jump off the boat. You know what I'm saying? Like she was just looking for an out. She was looking for an out. And who the fuck isn't going to fall in love with Leonardo DiCaprio? And the nigga can draw? Like, come on, bro. Come on. He's an artist and he's Leo. You know what I'm saying? He got all that spitza. You know what I'm saying? I probably would have fell in love with Leonardo DiCaprio if I was on that boat. Okay?
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say.
Especially if the competition is like Billy Zane with like half eyebrows.
Yeah,
and
a weird
Billy
wig.
Zane is a piece of shit. Honestly, I didn't really like Rose that much either. So
I think the real love story that is not talked about is Jack and Fabrizio, his Italian stereotype friend who goes on the boat and immediately goes, I go to America. He says, I can see the Statue of Liberty already. And they're like just out of the dock in the UK.
And then they have the fucking steam pipe fall on him.
I was going to ask, is he the one that gets crushed by the steam pipe?
He's big dead. He dies. For
sure.
Oh, man, that's tough. Although maybe that's a blessing at that point.
I was going to say, it's probably better than freezing to death in the water. So,
I mean, I'm with the guy who's guarding the lifeboats, and then at one point the guy who works in the crew, and then at one point it's just like, fuck this, and then he just shoots himself in the head and falls in. At that point, I kind of get it. But there's a lot of that stuff like that I didn't think. Like, do you guys think this isn't about our argument, Leonard, but like, do you guys feel, because it is such a long movie, that like the Bill Paxton old lady Rose stuff is necessary, or could you like cut that out and have like a 2-hour 45-minute movie that's
could totally be cut out, easily be cut out of the film? I honestly fast forwarded through the first 15 minutes of this movie.
Okay, Leonard's disqualified.
I'm not gonna lie to you.
I mean, I do think you need to set it up so that when she dies at the end, you know, it's otherwise it's so weird if she doesn't die, then how do you get to heaven? Like, it's having her old is the only way to get to a happy ending. But I do agree. It's like when we cut back and they're like, did you do it? And she's like, no, Jack was not, you know, you're like, what?
Oh, and then it's like, we totally did it. I'm not telling you guys about the car.
I know. And so it's like, I could do with much less of it. Let's put it. And also, same with her narrative. I don't need to be reminded an old lady is like winded somewhere telling a story.
There's that weird point in the middle, where they like pull out. I think they have like on her eyes, they pull out, and then it's like she's like, now back to the story. And I'm like, did they just put this in here for the VHS so that they could like break the movie?
Legit, yes, 100%.
It feels like if this was like the 50s and this movie came out, they would have just done an intermission, but they don't do those in movies anymore. They make you sit through the whole, the whole thing. But
I would argue this whole movie came out just because of, you know, technological advances where you could do a movie where a ship breaks in half. Do you know what I mean? Because this is like, that's why it's the biggest theater movie of all time, right? It's like a theater movie.
It's an experience.
Yeah. Yes, it's an experience. Exactly. So
I am grateful that they have that scene where the guy like takes them through the ship breaking and he shows them the 3D model, because it's almost like nowadays, because when I used to watch it, I was with Leonard. I was like, just fast forward this part. Like, just let me see the boat, you know, let me see like 1912. But they have that model where they show you what happens, because it sinks in such an interesting way that if they didn't say that, and you don't know that, if you're not an amateur historian who knows about the Titanic, you'd be like, okay, it sinks and then it's half under and then it breaks and then it goes straight up and then it goes straight down. Like, that is helpful, but also serves a dual purpose of letting you know what's coming. But everyone knows what's coming when you see a movie called Titanic, but letting you know how. And then also kind of like, it's like the equivalent of that scene in Jurassic Park where they see the dinosaur and then, oh God, what's his name? Spared no expense. The old man in that movie, Hammond.
Oh,
Hammond goes, wait till you see the T-Rex. And then they zoom up on Grant and he goes, you have a T-Rex? Like, it's a cool, like, this is how it's going to happen. You know, you're going to see this and we're going to very humane, very like cold and clinically just show you, and then you're going to experience it. And it actually, to me, makes it that much more dramatic, because they do a great job with all the disaster stuff in this movie.
Yeah,
they really do. They do a great job. And if I'm like sitting on Valentine's Day with my partner and watching this, I'm going to be like, God, it's a little jarring. You know what I'm saying? Maybe it'll make you appreciate your partner more. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully we don't die in some wreckage sometime soon.
Another shout out to a thing that doesn't matter is that moment of dramatic irony, I think it's called, when Rose likes paintings, and that's why she falls for Jack. He's a good match. He can draw. Yeah. And she has the Picasso, and Billy Zane goes, Picasso won't amount to a thing, which is like an early like plant, like, fuck you, Billy Zane. You person who can't recognize genius in art. And also it's like a great, like, every old movie, for whatever reason, they feel the need to be like, the Beatles, turn off that racket, wink. Like, it's like, we know it's gonna be very famous. You probably don't need this, but
right. Why can't she have a Degas and also somebody that didn't amount to anything?
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Do they all have to be fucking Picasso, Monet, and Degas? Like,
they say Rose, after she got off the ship, when she kept Jack's name, Leonard, became an actress in New York in the 1920s. She should have opened an art gallery. She's got the sharpest eye of anybody. That's crap. That's good. That's good.
An early Banksy on Titanic, you know?
Hey, that's how she got with Jack. What was funny though, I did like the line that I never noticed, I didn't catch before, the probably one time I watched this or twice, when he's like, yeah, I'm gonna make you a famous artist too, or something like that. Or he's like, or like the art's gonna be worth more. He's like, oh yeah, he was like that drawing is gonna be worth a lot.
It's a very villainy thing to say. Billy Zane leans into being the villain in this movie.
Yeah, they really make you hate him from the jump, and they did a good job. But I'm gonna say the person who I did enjoy watching and was great, even though it was still like, all right, we get what you're trying to do here, is the Kathy Bates character.
Notice how Leonard can't say anything
Molly Brown.
Leonard can't just say anything good about this movie. Like, Kathy Bates was great, even though it's terrible.
I love this like high school debate format. Kind of like putting a knife in just a little bit at the top of your like sentence.
If the movie's good, I'll tell him it's good, and I'll be like, I enjoyed it. Last week I enjoyed Casino; it was great. It just didn't fit the prompt, and I won, so it's cool. But you know,
we don't have to relitigate what's a better gambling movie, Casino or Snatch. But I see Leonard trying to pull the same bullshit 2 weeks in a row.
Well, because there are lines from Titanic that are still, you know, everyone can know and quote. Because I do think that for whatever reason, the reason you picked this movie is like there was a teen girl force that like brought it to an unprecedented place, right? And there are people that have it memorized word for word. I mean, it's funny, the line Hannah and I always say, which Hannah says whenever we get in a car or whatever, is let's stretch our legs. When they like first let Titanic go, the captain. So like that, there are like little things like it is in the
DNA.
That fits perfectly into our one of our first talking points is pop culture, and there's like we really don't even honestly need to talk about it because it's hands down Titanic. 100%.
The Titanic is sailing by that little Matthew McConaughey island and flooding it. He can get his boat out of the tree because the force of the Titanic's wake of pop culture is,
you know, I'm the king of the world. Pay me like one of your French girls.
Right. Like, yes. I'll never let you go.
Never let go. Even
say that so
the
many
backlash
times at the beginning of the movie. Like,
they really hit you over the head with it.
It's like, oh, come on, man.
It also, that song propelled, you know, Celine Dion for decades, right? Like
Celine Dion song, yes.
Holy shit! And it's like the greatest meme music. The recorder version of it when they do it in the background. It's like you already know this video is about to be hilarious if that music is in the background.
Sure. Well, okay, so. Not to like put you on the spot, Leonard, but I am curious why there's no sex scene or big kiss in Mud, yes?
No, there isn't. There isn't.
Which, Dickie, you did say when you think of a love story, you think of some passion, some sex.
The reason why I liked it because even when I was a cynical child, and I'm a cynical guy. It's pretty obvious, you know. I'm also skeptical and shit, but I just hate. Now I like for a long time I was like, I'm never gonna watch The Notebook, and then I watched The Notebook with an ex, and it was great. I can't lie, it's a good movie. You know what I'm saying? Right. And
I mean, also because they hated each other when they filmed it, and then got together after.
Wow!
And then famously had a really terrible breakup.
Oh, I didn't know that last part.
Oh yeah, they and Ryan Gosling, when asked about it, the quote is, "I don't know. We both went down swinging, and in the end, we called it a draw."
Yikes.
Wow.
I could have chosen that, but I'm just not a real, like, I do love to cry, and I do love, like, I love good stories. Like A Star Is Born, that movie was fucking amazing. Like I had to run out of the theater because I had snot and shit like running down my face because I was crying so much.
Right.
But I just like it when it feels genuine, it feels real, and I don't like some sappy love story bullshit. To me, I just don't like that. So
you didn't connect.
Titanic is like the quintessential. That is what that is. You know what I'm saying? It's like just like, all right, let's write up these Hallmark Valentine's Day cards. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. So
yeah, formulaic
for sure, 100%. And with Mud, it was for me. It was just the feel and the soul, and just being like, I love that this love story isn't just some cookie cutter love story, and like sometimes they don't love each other, and sometimes they're using each other, and sometimes they're not. But it's like the shit that you'll do for love. And I just love Ellis. Ellis is just like,
young Ty Sheridan is great.
Yeah. And it was funny when I first started watching, I was like, oh shit, it's Baby Driver. I'm like, he's not fucking Baby Driver. He's from Ready Player One and some other shit. But I just, I had the anyways. But Ellis just loves everyone. He loves, like, Mud wouldn't be able to do whatever he's trying to do and get to Juniper without Ellis's help and the love that he gives him, and Blankenship and his parents. And it's just like, it's all the different stories of love tied into one that's just like great. And the Mud character was doing all this stuff, but he gave it all up for Ellis, because when he got bit by the snake, he just instantly hopped on. He didn't think twice. And it's just like kind of like some enduring love shit. Like, this man killed a man for this woman. And it's like, all right, you don't want anybody to kill anyone, but when you hear the story, it's like, damn, I understand. So for me, it's just love all around, but it's like told in, I feel like, a very realistic way. Like, I feel like these people are real. Like, this could really happen,
Leonard, you're from the South. I know you're not from, the Mississippi. You're not from like the Bayou or whatever, but you outside of Atlanta or in you North Carolina, you've talked about it. But like, are you more familiar maybe with these types of people? You know what I mean? Like, have you met people like this before? Because to me, this is like, it may as well be kind of fantasy or whatever. Not because it's told realistically, but I haven't had interactions with a lot of Mud types in my life. Put it that way.
Yeah, that makes it also feel a lot more real for sure. And then you also understand, like, Ellis's mom's situation, where it's like you're stuck in the same situation and there's nothing to do. There's no one around. So you just have to love someone and you just stay with somebody. And it's just like, nah, it's like her like loving herself and being like, all right, I'm going to change this up. And it's just Ellis seeing all the different, everybody's telling him all these different things about love, and he has to come to his own.
And then has his own too, right? Like, has that first with that girl. And then even at the end
where he punches, he gets mad at Mud. And then like,
yeah, can we talk for a second about what
the whole movie's about? Love.
What kind of game Ellis was spitting? Ellis he punched he's an 8th grader, I presume, if he's 14. Yes, he punched a senior, and then he went out with a girl in high school, and then he sees his girlfriend, not really his girlfriend, but he thinks she's his girlfriend, in a car with another high school kid, and fists flying. Ellis is who I wished I was when I was in 8th grade. That kid takes no bullshit. I loved Ellis.
Yeah. It's not really great to just go punching people, but and he just but it's not great that he's doing it, but you're like, hell yeah, you're like rooting for him, and he's spitting game, man. He's just
she's like, if you can find my number, you should call me. And goes, I'll find it. Like, he's just a super confident kid.
And then you see calls.
Like the phone book. I thought he was gonna go for a little bit more work than that, but he's just like, she's probably in the phone book.
That was great. He's just so confident. He's like, I'll get it. Yeah, don't worry, I got it.
I got you. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, and I think like the really interesting part of that movie, right, is when he goes to the bar. Which, by the way, talk about. I was like, yeah, I'd be at the bar off 61 too, 100%. When he walks in and sees her with the other guy, and like you see, what's interesting is you're not watching a straight boyfriend girlfriend, but you watch his heart. You hear his heartbreak in your head, right?
Exactly.
When he sees her, and you hear it break permanently, and like that that's like formative for him, right? But also it's not his girlfriend,
and he's so clearly put everything into and I'm gonna debate how this movie fits the prompt liner, but it's undoubtedly a really good movie. I hadn't seen it. I just watched it, so I was really struck by it. I think it's great. But he puts so much into it because, like you say, his parents are getting divorced. He doesn't have, it's not like he has a strong foundation of, his parents love him and he loves them, and they're not so toxic that they can't still parent him. But like he isn't seeing a strong, healthy, loving relationship at home necessarily. And he's starting to figure out about women himself. And so he puts so much on love. Like he believes Mud, even though everything is telling him, why would you believe this person? Because he really wants to believe in love. And it is kind of sweet and sincere, but it's not campy. It's not melodramatic at all, which I understand you saying Titanic is. So I did appreciate that about this movie.
Yeah, it's interesting because like if you were to really go like grad school thesis with it, right? The mythic archetypes that he's learning are sort of like what love stories do to teen girls almost, and teen people, right? Like this watching Titanic 100 times might give you an unrealistic expectation of what is coming down the pipe,
Yeah. Very much.
Yeah. It's an iceberg coming.
Yeah, There's a lot more below the surface.
You want to go on a cruise to my family to Barbados? No. No.
Yeah, if it's moving quick, something's wrong.
Like, what's great about that is like how you said when you see Ellis's heartbreak when he sees her at the bar, but then like also when Ellis, the first time he brings her the letter and you see his face light up when he sees her reading the letter, like, and when like Mud is just talking about Juniper and just explaining like who she is, and it's just you can just see the love in people's faces. It's just really well acted out, and it just feels like, I don't know, genuine.
Yeah.
He's great. It's a much more nuanced film than Titanic. I will freely admit that. What like there's attempted murders in both of these movies.
There's attempted murders. There's boats.
There's actual murders. There's actual murders too. That dude some of those people who he shot for sure died.
Oh no, the ex-CIA guy living across the river, Tom. He absolutely killed a bunch of people.
Oh. That was lit. That was a lit scene.
Is there any? First of all, is there any worse way to die? And I'm opening this to you guys. Is there any worse way to die? Because this was what was going in my head rewatching Titanic than on the Titanic. Like, is there a worse way to die than that? And two, is there a better time to try to commit a murder? Shouts to Billy Zane than when the Titanic is going down. Because at one point he's just like, "Give me this gun. I'm just gonna go after him and try to shoot them both." And I was like, "What is he doing?" And then I'm like, you know what? No, this is like a hall pass. Like no one's going to be like, and I saw that guy and he was shooting at people and be like, no, you didn't. It's chaos. So I respect his choice of like correctly assessing the situation, being like, I think I can get away with a murder right now.
Yeah.
I don't have to handcuff him to the basement and hope he floods. I'm just going to shoot the motherfucker.
Like in that chaos. Well, to answer your first question about dying of the hypothermia, right? Like
right.
I remember reading, this is really a little bit dark, but in World War II, when they were marching into Russia and the Germans were, lying down and dying on the side of the road because they were so cold. Like they had, Hitler hadn't gotten them a winter gear because he expected to be out so fast, that everyone that's dead on the side of the road has a smile on their face, because the last thing you do is you piss yourself and you experience a euphoric moment of warmth.
Oh my
and
gosh.
Your body sort of like I'm going into the light kind of way, like releases like everything. So it's really eerie because everyone on the side of the road is like chilling, all teeth, big grins and stuff.
Truly chilling.
Truly chilling.
All right, maybe that's worth trying to invade Russia as a Nazi is the worst way to die.
That's probably the toughest one.
I didn't understand the people who were just like still chilling down on the like whatever club level or whatever. Like I was like, you're just gonna drown. Like I don't know. I feel like drowning is probably worse than slowly freezing to death.
I think very few of those people drowned. I think maybe if you stayed on the ship and you got clocked in, like it seemed like you were freezing to death, like Leo. You were bobbing in the water, and you'll freeze before you drown. Or like the force of the water was, I think, killing a lot of people. But yeah, and to sidestep for a moment, Jack and Rose, there are a lot of sweet moments, like the old man and the woman who, again, I think it's based on a real account. A lot of these things, this was an incredibly well-researched movie, though Jack and Rose are fictional, of like the people that stay in their rooms and like the old couple just holding each other while the water rises up around the bed.
That's the love story, man.
That's the love story.
That's the part that made me cry.
All the scenes of like the dad, and again, these were taken from real accounts from survivors, like of the little girls, but like a dad giving his daughter to like the mom being like, stay with mommy. It's only temporary. The boat for the daddies is coming next. And it's like, it's tragic. There's a ton of, because Leonard correctly, I think, has pointed out that it's not just, there really isn't actually one very strong two-person love story in Mud, but I think there are other shows of love in Titanic as well. I think obviously Kate and Leo are the main one, but there are other. Yeah,
like the mother putting her two children to bed so they could drown in it.
What else are you left with?
That was so fucked. It was just like,
they're going to freak out before it ends.
The class system was getting a little annoying. It's kind of beating me over the head with the whole class system thing, but I'm sure that's what happened. So
this is the one time Leonard hasn't pointed out there are no black people in this movie, because you wouldn't want there to be any black people.
I don't want there to be any black people on the goddamn Titanic.
No, I was actually, I was watching with Hannah and I was telling her, I was asking if she remembered that SNL sketch with Keenan where like, they're like putting people on lifeboats and they're like, women and children first. And then it's like everyone except the black people. It's like, okay, all of the grand pianos on the lifeboat.
Oh, I remember that one. I do remember.
All the luggage, get the luggage, and they're like waiting for their turn.
There's also that great moment, which again is supposedly true according to the accounts, where the band keeps playing. So when you're saying, Leonard, like, why is the dude in his hat and tails going to the main ballroom being like, I'll take some brandy if you have it? I think people had come to grips with what was about to happen and handled it their own way. Some people were stoic, some people were panicked.
I completely understand that. And it's like they knew they were going to die, so they were just like, they were at peace with it. But it's just like, damn, you're going to just drown down here, though, because that's what's going to happen.
I mean, what are you going to do? Swim to shore? Like you're going to drown in the water, or you're going to drown in on the boat. There's also what I did forget, which I don't love about this movie, but I understand the narrative impulse to tie it together. I don't think it probably wouldn't have made a difference, but considering how close the glance ultimately was, there's that scene where they've just had sex in the car. It's hot. It's steamy. They're still running away from, Rose's fiance's valet, who is like
her handler,
RoboCop. He's like coming after them, and they get out onto the main deck, and they're smooching. And the guys who are supposed to be watching in the catbird seat, is that what they call it? Like in the boat, like the bird's eye view, the crow's nest. Thank you. They like turn and they're like, look at this, and they like look down, and then they look right back up, and they're like, iceberg. And I'm like, are they implying that they in some part caused the ship to crash? Because I don't know if I like that implication.
I know that, like, if they just had better eyes on the road, we might not have.
I feel like that kind of leads into how well do these films hold up. And
great,
I'm just going to say this about Titanic. I feel like it's just drawn out. They draw so much shit out, and it's like just so over. It's just melodramatic. It's just over. It's over the top for me in some parts. I understand though.
The boat literally goes over the
epic
top.
Experience. But I feel like it still looked dope. Like it still looked great.
Most of the FX hold up pretty well.
Yeah, it held up pretty well.
Did it win like best feature, or James Cameron get best director or something?
It won everything except for, like, I think nobody won in any acting categories. I don't even think Leo was nominated, but it won 11 Academy Awards.
Wow.
Right. I think he was famously pissed he didn't win, is what Hannah was telling me.
No, Cameron did win, actually. I remember this because when he won, he went on stage and everyone kind of rolled their eyes. No, you know what? Maybe he didn't win director. Maybe he won for best feature. But he went on stage and he went, I'm king of the world. And everyone was like, right. Okay, James Cameron.
That is so dumb. Yes,
it's so lame.
No, and I was talking about Frio Leo.
Oh. No, he didn't. I would be pissed too. That movie was nominated for everything. They're basically like, we love this movie, but we don't like you.
I will say, you want to talk about chemistry between some actors, that he and Kate are still friends and still at award shows and stuff, like hang and drink and all that. You
can take shots at the screenplay. I expect Leonard would. I think Mud is tighter, but the chemistry, and again, when you're talking about a love story, I want to believe the two people like each other. And Rachel McAdams, I haven't seen The Notebook. Rachel McAdams and Ryan Gosling apparently didn't get along, but the chemistry clearly is there, or else I imagine people wouldn't rewatch that movie as much as they do.
Yeah.
Also there in Titanic. And they liked each other so much, they've made movies together since. And they are still, I think, close friends. I mean, they click in this movie for sure.
I do feel like it is my duty to point out that neither of these movies is hot. You know what I mean? Because The Notebook is like fucking sexy. Like, regardless, like it's hot. We get steamy, like there's points where you're like, you're locked in. And I mean, maybe Titanic definitely goes for it. And maybe other people had that experience with Titanic. And I do think that obviously like Mud is, I said when we first texted, I was like, oh, I love Mud.
Yeah. I was kind of worried
because
I was like, Mud?
But not for this pick.
Well, here's so I asked Leonard a question. Can I ask you one? Or am I fucking up the...
No. Yeah. You're the judge, whatever you need.
Okay. Oh, good. Okay. Well, here's the thing, Quinn. So like, is there a moment in this love story, there's like those things where they hit you because they're real, right? Like you felt it. Like, so like, is there a moment from Titanic that like personally resonates with you?
Can I ask like what you mean by that? Like the moment that I thought in terms of their love story felt real, or that I remembered? Because as a boy, I definitely remembered
a guy ding on a propeller.
Yeah, like that stayed with me. And I
don't mean like you would experience it when you watched it, but just like something that like sticks with you.
The spitting scene, I think I later found out that was like largely improv. And again, that's another example of a scene that is corny. It's like he teaches this high society girl to spit, like really, really thinking outside the box. But I think it's a great showcase of their chemistry. They've had the scene before where he saves her from drowning, and he's like talking to her about how sharp the water would feel and how cold. And that's a really good scene. But how often are we going to talk someone down from the ledge? I think their kind of flirtation and their courtship, whatever you want to call it, sort of starts when they're hanging out. I guess there's that scene before where she sees his drawings and she kind of thinks he's insufferable. But the scene where he's like really hawking the leash, like, no, you got to really like go back with it. And that reminded me, especially if like we're talking about high school age sort of stuff where you're just sort of enjoying each other's bullshit. That did get with me. I think there's other scenes like when they're dancing. That
party looks fun.
It looks like a fun party, and the Irish deck party. And she's like, they're stealing beers from people that are arm wrestling, and they're running around doing,
that like sweaty party energy. I forgot about that. That is good.
But the one that kind of sold me on their chemistry and sort of sold me on like, I believe these people could be in love is probably weirdly the spitting scene, and then scenes that follow. But that was the moment that kind of, when you said that, that's the first thing that came to mind. I'll also say for me personally, not just Propeller Guy, and I've talked about this on the podcast before, so I'll spare Leonard the full. But that was the first time I saw a boob. Was Kate Winslet.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
that's formative.
My mom rented the VHS, so maybe that's part of why I picked it too. But my mom rented the VHS, either did not, I think she'd probably seen it, so maybe did not remember. And then when it got there, we're like watching it, and I'm like, oh, and I think she was just like, it's very natural. This is very, like, she tried to like coach us through like seeing, because I'm sure my brother was watching it too, and I was like, don't say anything. Like, it's okay. I'm young enough where really all I want right now is to my mom not talking over the moment that's being seared in my memory of the first boob I've ever seen.
You know what's so funny is thinking about if you'd been a parent at that time, how many families you see the boobs, and then you have the break where you have to switch the VHS, and there's a minute of silence.
Yeah, exactly. They haven't even had the sex yet. And that's why when you're saying like the movie's not hot, I get that. I think the hand is probably as close as it comes to being hot, but it's not erotic. But I think
it is iconic though.
It's iconic, and it's a steamy, back of the car. But the movie's pretty chaste in that respect. And the fact that I think it was still PG-13, even though it is a boob, because it's not really a sexual scene, or they're still enraptured with each other, but it's not physically a sexual scene. He's just sketching her at that point. So I'm surprised. I don't know if that movie would still get away with a PG-13 rating, but I think that as much as anything is my mom was like, he can see PG-13. And she goes, I forgot about the boob. I have to talk to him. I have to talk to him about it now while it's happening. And I'm like, no, you don't.
No, you don't.
No, you don't.
That boob holds up.
Just let me put this pillow over my lap and we're good.
That boob stays up. I agree.
Yeah. Well, Kate Winslet's boobs have held up.
I don't know if Mud can even qualify for holds up because it came out like 8 years ago, 9 years ago. Whatever.
Yeah, I'd say just one thing. I would say like Mud has held up. It's not really that dated. Titanic had a significant backlash. I think probably like about 10 years after it came out, just because it was so like, I just got the Celine Dion song out of my head before I rewatched it. And now it's back. Like it was so everywhere. And then you get people, and I get it. It's fine. Like, could Leo have fit on the door? Even though that's not really what the movie's about. But like, you get people nitpicking. You get people, any movie that is balloons to that size is going to have people poking little holes in it. And that's totally fine and fair. But I think now that the backlash has kind of died down, at least I could just appreciate it as a really, to me, engaging, enthralling love disaster story.
Okay.
I don't know that anything is not held up. We can just go on to the next one, Leonard, unless you.
Has Gary L. Oldman been in either one of these films?
It's not Gary L. Oldman. It's
Gary Oldman. His middle name starts with an L.
So, okay. Dickie, our first season, we used to ask ourselves, was Samuel L. Jackson in this movie that we've watched? Because he was in every movie that we'd watched growing up. And surprisingly, he was not in many movies that we watched. This year, we changed it up. We've been asking, is Gary Oldman in these movies that we watch? And if he's not, where might he fit? So there's really no points to be made here. It's just a fun exercise. I think he could have fit in both of these movies, Leonard, but I've been talking about Titanic for a while, so please go for it.
Well, let me see. In Mud, he could be one of the Texas family members who's looking for Mud. He could maybe play the dad, maybe.
Gary Oldman has a Bayou accent he wants to bust out. He's like sitting on it.
Maybe even Galen. I don't know. But I really loved Galen, so it was just funny. Yeah, I feel like that's probably where the only few places he could fit in Mud.
All right, I'm just going to be real quick about this one then. And Dickie, please let us know if you have different thoughts for either of these movies. But real quick, I like Billy Zane as a villain, but Gary Oldman was playing all kinds of villains in the late 90s. He would be Rose's fiance.
Yeah, right. Like, what is it? The Fifth Element energy?
Yeah. Like... He'd be a much weirder Kate Winslet fiance, but I could see him being very posh and very like evil. So yeah.
Right. Cause like, I wish like if this movie had come out now, we would have had like Stanley Tucci in the Billy Zane role and he would have been nice. You know, I will say that is the thing the Notebook does is it's James Marsden and he loves her parents and he's rich and hot. And I personally think like he's far less toxic and he can dance. I mean, that's a different podcast.
He's not flipping any tables over.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But he's a war hero. It goes on and on, but he's James Marsden.
He's Cyclops.
Yeah. Another great love story, but Gary Oldman I think probably would have been like that like one of those captain people that like kind of like goes down. He feels very like nondescript, like how Ian Grufford at the end is the guy that's like anyone else here.
Yeah Okay. Also classic one last job trope in this movie. I assume that's true, but it's like this is the captain's last voyage, and it's like, man, that sucks for you, buddy.
Yeah, I know, right?
I mean, even just the whole speech about how many lifeboats, like, yeah, okay.
Which I would think is like terrible foreshadowing. Like, you know, right? If it's a disaster movie, we know there's a disaster coming, and every other character is just like, it's the unsinkable ship. But that's true. Like, that's the crazy thing is everyone was going around being like, it's so unsinkable. Like, they were just dancing right into the iceberg. And so it's like you'd be kind of shortchanging history to not have them be boasting about how they're definitely not going to drown on this trip. And then it's like, well, you are. So.
You know what would have been really on trend is if Gary Oldman had been the Kathy Bates role in a wig, and then today we were talking about how problematic it was.
Oh my God. That would be amazing.
Where like you have all these like think pieces on like, look, that was a turning point for us. Like he was nominated, he shouldn't have been. But you believe Cameron can do it.
They would have had 12 Academy Awards instead of 11.
Yes, exactly. Everyone would have been like, but it's convincing.
I bought him. I thought he was great. Do we even need to go over stats, Leonard? I mean, I think we know. We can get into exact numbers. The Titanic famously cost a lot of money, but then made like $1 billion, $2 billion. It made an insane amount of money. Mud is an indie, so it's judged at a.
Mud cost 10 and it made 32.
Okay, so that's a success.
Obviously. But on it is a success. But on Rotten Tomatoes, it's a 97%.
Wow.
So,
damn.
Titanic is 80. I had it 89%.
Wow.
Okay. Which is higher than I would have thought. Considering
it's higher than I would have thought either.
Yeah.
So
two well-reviewed movies. One is a juggernaut, but the other one, I'm not going to hold the box office against Titanic. Although I think
critically acclaimed Titanic.
Yeah, it is. Also, the IMDb rating for Titanic is higher, 7.8 versus 7.4 for Mud. So that's if we want a little bit more of a fan perspective.
The audience score on Rotten Tomato is 80% for Mud, and for Titanic it's like 63%.
Okay. So I think we are unlike the Titanic. Our land is in sight. We are close to pulling into dock.
And it's actually a funnier, steamier, hot number. It's actually 69%.
Oh, sick!
I'd rather that than 100.
Okay, yeah, we're pulling
stats of stats. I think Titanic is the more culturally resonant film, but I would argue that Mud is a little bit deeper, more nuanced, whatever. But Leonard, do you have a final argument that you want to go into?
You know, I feel like I've just made it over the the time. You know, there's a lot of love, I feel like, in Mud, and Ellis is he's learning. He's learning about love, and I feel like he's falling in love with love, and it's not really sexy or steamy or hot, but like the fact that McConaughey is killed a man, risking his life in that way, and then going to this island and waiting for Juniper, and sometimes love doesn't work out for you. You know what I'm saying? But the fact that he was sitting there waiting, and it's been his lifelong love story with him and her. You know, she saved his life as well, and he's followed her to the ends of the earth. And it just it feels good. It feels right, and it feels real, and it's shot beautifully. All the shots and like the POV shots when they're looking up at the birds and nature and stuff is just, it's great. And then there are just some great lines in there, and I love it. So that's all I have to say.
All right, I will
say this one line that's a great line, and Juniper says it to Ellis, and she's like, "Why are you helping us?" And he says, "Because y'all love each other." And how can you not love that? That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's very good. I agree that this is a movie about love. Maybe not at first glance, but I think you did pick a movie that's about love. I don't think it's perfect for the prompt. I think I made that clear. And I'm going to also start with a quote from Mud. And that quote is,
I know what you're going to say.
"There are things you can get away with in this world, Leonard, and there are things you can't." And you can't submit for the prompt best love story, a film that IMDb classifies as a drama, Google classifies as a drama/indie film, Rotten Tomatoes classifies as drama adventure, and Amazon, where I watched it, classifies as suspense drama. I'm not saying there's not love in this
Netflix,
movie.
It was free on both of those.
Son of a bitch, I paid for it. Titanic, love it or hate it, it's right there, and it's a romantic drama. It's a love story. The love story is at its core. Love is in all of these movies. You've explained well, I think, why love is in Mud. But love is also in Cheaper by the Dozen. I mean, love is in kind of any movie where a character wants something or cares for another person. I'm talking about a love story, and to me, that's the act of falling in love, even if it's a tragic love story, even if it's a breakup movie, even if it's the Vince Vaughn, Jennifer Aniston movie, The Breakup. That's a love story. It's just a falling out of love story. The Titanic is just, what do we think of when we think of best? I mean, we think of like everyone's seen this movie, everyone's familiar with this movie, it made all the money, it made all the whatever, but it also has a lot of these Never Let Go, I'm a King of the World, where they're like holding each other on the bow of the ship and it's that 360 shot. These are all classic love story tropes. And if you want to say they're cheesy, then I can't defend against that. I can't account for taste. I will say that Romeo and Juliet, when it came out, was like ridiculed as one of Shakespeare's lesser works because it's just about two stupid kids falling in love, and who really gives a shit? This wouldn't last. It's not about whether it would last. It's about whether they were in love, and maybe it's lust, and maybe they come to their senses in the light of day, perhaps. But that doesn't really matter when you're falling in love, right? We've all been in love. You just are in love, and I think Jack and Rose, it certainly qualifies. I mean, if you want a little bit more about how this was like an enduring love. I mean, she kept his last name. Obviously, yes, she remarries. She lives a very long time. In fact, there's that scene where she's afraid that they're drowning, and he holds her and he says, "You're going to die an old woman, warm in your bed." And the last shot of the film is Rose warm in her bed. She dies. And then there's that lovely tracking shot through the wreckage of the ship into the not the modern day, but into when the ship was built. And she is clearly, I think, in the afterlife. And she's going through the main hall, and she looks up the stairs, and there's Leo. Doesn't he look great? And he gives her hand, and they kiss, and then it pans up and it fades to white because she's dying. And when she's dying, she remembers the love of her life. I don't know if Dickie's crying or laughing.
I'm laughing seeing this old woman pissing herself in the bed and smiling because she's experiencing one last moment of euphoria, like a German.
Yeah, I was like, is this
one last moment of euphoric warmth?
I literally was like, was this the longest episode of Black Mirror I've ever watched? What's happening right now? The fuck is going on?
Your love, Leonard? Oh no, sorry, Dickie, go.
Yeah. Just because I just can't. My main thought at the end of that thing is like, look, you die and you don't think the man you had children with and spent your whole.
Exactly. Rose is a terrible person. I'm sorry. She never mentions his name one time. I've never said his name. Yeah, bullshit.
Rose, who died, whatever. This guy I never told you about that I fucked once.
Yeah, anybody that's gonna marry the Billy Zane character, I can't fuck with you, dog. I can't.
She wasn't gonna marry him. She was gonna kill herself on the boat. But anyway, she was never gonna marry the Billy Zane. That was a cry for help.
She wasn't gonna jump. She wasn't.
Your version of love, at least in the form of Matthew McConaughey Juniper character, which I think is the closest version to what we usually think of in a love story between two people, is more like. And Dickie, I don't know what your how versed you are on Malcolm in the Middle, but Leonard and I love it a lot. It reminds me of that episode of Malcolm where Francis leaves the military school and Malcolm has to be the little Ellis We should all watch this episode of Malcolm in the Middle where he's acting as a go-between and sending notes from where Francis is hiding behind the house to his girlfriend who doesn't give a shit and has Malcolm shoplift for her and is like watching Buffy while they're on the phone together. And he gives her the note and she goes, oh, double spaced. Someone had a lot, or 2 pages. Someone had a lot of time. And then Francis is appealing to Malcolm. He goes, when you're in love, you just feel it. You just know. And that's why you understand. And Malcolm looks at the camera and he goes, I really thought he was going to have a better reason than that. And Leonard, I'm sorry, but when you picked this movie, I was like, why? And I've listened to your argument, and I have to say, I really thought you were going to have a better reason than that.
Okay, well, we'll see. Well, Dickie, how do you feel? You can explain how you felt and what your thought process was, and you can let us know ultimately who has won this episode.
Well, I would love to. Well, first, before I get into my final thoughts, I think I have to do my own quote from Mud, which from the first guy I watched it with. We always used to say this back in, because we cried laughing at it, was, you touch them titties? He goes,
yeah, shout out to Neckbone. Neckbone is great.
And then Neckbone goes, that's great, man.
A little bit.
Goes, thanks. A little bit. That's great, man.
Even McConaughey's like, that's a damn nice handle you got there, son.
Yeah, so good.
But I guess how I feel is, and I think this is I don't know if this is coming out Valentine's Day or when, but like, this is an appropriate conundrum that you quite often have with love itself, right? I feel like Titanic is like the hot guy that when he talks, you're just like, you hear like a buzzing hive.
Yeah.
But he's hot. And you're kind of like, I guess I dick down with that, like, okay, but ultimately you don't even want to have brunch or whatever. But and then Mud is like that guy that you're like, you definitely connect, you feel like something's up, but you're just not quite like, it doesn't give you quite the boner. Do you know what I mean? But it's good. It's so good. And it's, your mom is like, what are you doing? Settle. And you're like, Mom, but I want to fuck my person. They're a little weird. Yeah. So it's tough. It's like neither is the full package. I'll tell you that much. I'm not convinced either is the full.
We knew when we didn't pick The Notebook that we were gonna have to try to win you over to one of our sides.
For sure.
Right. Or the best love story is Portrait of a Lady on Fire. That's that is the best love story. That movie is so incredible. And it does all the things. I connected, it's hot, it's interesting, it's beautiful, beautifully shot, etc. But I think titties, oh yeah, of course, right? But I think it comes down to what kind of person you are, right? And I would pick Mud.
I knew it.
I disagree with my own choice in that I really think there's barely a love story technically in Quinn's face.
Quinn is this way because it is official. I have won season 2 of Film versus Film.
Oh no, really?
Yes, we will have an episode next week, but it will be basically pointless. But it's okay.
He's dead in the water.
He's dead in the water. It's official. I am now at 5 wins. No. He's at 3 wins.
5. Oh shit, Leonard.
Dickie, wow. I didn't want to sway your decision.
I would have chosen.
I didn't say anything about it.
I can't pick a James Cameron written love story. I'm sorry.
So you just pick a movie where there's no fucking or love. There's so
much love.
I know. God, I'm distraught over it. And
oh my God, I cannot believe
2 weeks in a row.
Happened. Leonard. Okay. Oh my God.
Wow. Are you? Do you feel it like if you just saw your old man friend's girlfriend kissing somebody in a bar?
It's worse than that.
Wait, he's dating Giselle now?
I cannot believe on the Valentine's Day episode of this, we're picking a dirty Matthew McConaughey movie where Reese Witherspoon leaves him because she gets bored.
Hey, Matthew McConaughey is sexy in this movie. He's sexy in this movie. I will.
You like that chip too?
Yeah, I loved it. I love that angle.
I should have just picked Space Jam. Anything is a love movie.
It's like Star Wars.
Titanic is a goddamn disaster movie.
You gotta be kidding me. Oh, I thought I had this in the bag.
It's okay, honestly, look, a generation of girls agrees with you. I'm doing a very palm door choice here.
I'm going to jump in the water.
Don't let go, Quinn. Don't let go.
No, I'm letting go. You let go of me. I'm Leo sinking to the bottom of the sea now. This was such a trap game, Leonard. And you picked such a left field choice that I was like, you're going to win because if you just don't want to pick Titanic. I'm not. Dickie is a person, she has agency, but I'm angry at Leonard for not playing the game correctly. And
I am playing the game correctly. This is the movie that came out. All the movies that she said I haven't seen, so I can't pick movies that I haven't seen. You know what I'm saying?
I can't tell you what to do. You're like an idiot savant, just skipping through the minefield.
I could have chosen.
You won the other ones.
Well, the last one was gambling, and he chose casino, and I chose Snatch.
Right?
But it's okay. He chose a mob movie. You know what I'm saying? So it's okay.
Right.
Man, Dickie, thank you so much. This has been so much fun. Like, for real.
Is that why there's literally the huge smile on your face, and Quinn, his hair is like up from running his hands through it. Well, just like any relationship, someone's heartbroken.
Exactly.
Someone's moving on.
I watched a 3 hour and 15-minute Titanic movie to lose.
Yeah, exactly. You played yourself. Congratulations.
Well, when you die, you'll come back to this moment and we'll all applaud.
Yeah. I'm going to flip you the bird as it fades to white. I'm going to flip you both off.
He's gonna have a copy of the DVD Notebook hidden, and he's gonna drop it into the ocean.
I am never watching the Notebook now.
You're like personally mad.
I am upset. I'm a hot little tamale right now. I don't know what we're gonna do next week, Leonard. We've got a whole episode left, and it's irrelevant.
Well, it's gonna be fun. It's
not.
Honestly,
here. Look, I'll choose again.
No. It's too late. It's etched in stone.
Honestly,
you knew what I was gonna do.
If I would have known,
you're gonna do mud again
today. If I would have known I would have won today, I would have chosen a different film for next week, and I would have chosen. They're not gonna know what it is because they probably won't be able to figure it out. But I would have chosen Addams Family Values, and just to make it interesting. But I was trying to win next week, so I didn't choose that one. But it's okay.
Well. Next week, we can give away the prompt. Next week, we'll be talking about best sequels. I'm going to pick Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, because apparently the rules don't matter. And
it is technically a sequel to
The Hobbit.
The Hobbit.
Yeah, just like the Titanic is a sequel to The Mayflower. I don't understand.
Also, I would have picked that movie out the gate. You wouldn't even have to argue. It would have been Lord. You got me on the wrong week. That's the problem.
Okay, yeah. Well, thank you, Dickie.
Hold on, Dickie. Where can we find you? Where can we? Find you?
No, she does not get to promote that. No, yeah, Dickie, please.
Well, let's see. Oh, you know what? I'm on Instagram at Dickie Pants, but also we do like a Instagram live show on Thursday nights at It's On With, and it's like a tarot show where we read people's tarots and talk about their love lives.
Yeah, and take that with a grain of salt. We've seen how Dickie values love, but it is a very fun show, and everyone should check it out. You can also see Dickie in non-pandemic times and maybe stuff online as a member of the improv team, The Dragons.
That is true. Yes, absolutely. Also, you can see me watching Lord of the Rings. That's my favorite set of movies. So,
thanks so much for being on, Dickie. We used to be friends.
I know. It was nice while it lasted. I like that you are actually letting go, unlike Rose.
Our friendship has hit an iceberg. Leonard, congrats, I guess. We'll talk about whatever my punishment is going to be on the next episode, which is now irrelevant. So tune in, I guess. But
it is not irrelevant. It's going to be fun, and we're going to have a good time.
We should have some stipulation where it has to be worse or something unless I win. I don't know why I'm digging myself in deeper.
Yeah, that's what we'll do. We'll do that.
I purposely didn't say, too. I'm like, if Dickie doesn't pick my movie, then I'm going to see if I could get some sympathy points. But I was like, nah, I got this.
I mean, look, it's a heavyweight. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
I think there's a large section of your listenership that won't agree with me, but there it is.
Yeah. Well.
All right, girls. It was great, guys. We'll see you. We'll see you guys later. We'll see you on the poop deck.
Wherever. I don't care.